Welcome back, Streamer Nation. I'm your host, Michael Smio, and you're listening to the SP Streamer Podcast. We are part of the Fantrax and FantraxHQ.com family. Lauren, I don't know if you've been looking, but we lost in the Battle of the Pods.
I checked a couple hours ago. It was like a 60-40. I didn't know if that we made some big push at the end. Apparently we didn't. Is it officially over now?
I'm pretty sure we're done for.
Okay.
Yeah, we are recording the night before it's finalized, but it's definitely, I'm trying to get to it real quick. Why can't I find it? I'm terrible.
Find it.
Oh, here it is. So we were going against CBS, so I mean, now we're supposed to beat them, but 41% to 58%.
Yeah. Well, we had a good run, you know.
Yeah, I mean, at least we made it to the Sweet 16, I guess.
Yeah, well, you know,
and as I said before we got on, I'm not prepared at all for this podcast, which isn't good.
This will be a good one, I think.
I should have introduced you probably there better, Lauren, but
I think people get who we are at this point. Yeah.
All right, let's just bring them in.
Just bring them in.
Our guest today, as I'm typing in to see his Twitter account. I'm purposely running the show like this too, just to spite him. He is a fantasy baseball contributor to The Athletic somehow, is the co-owner of SK Playbook, is the host of the Bases Loaded podcast. You probably know him for his spring training lineup tracker and his craziness on Twitter as well. And that is Mike Kurland. What's up, Mike?
Oh, is that my cue to speak? Is that how this works?
That was a great
yeah, the one of the most mediocre intros of all time. Thank you very much, Savio. I'm happy to be here, Lauren. You're definitely the better half, and I'm glad to finally get a chance to actually talk to you via instead of just trolling Mike relentlessly on Twitter.
But that's fun too.
I find that the most enjoyable aspect of Twitter.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
I hate you.
Feelings mutual, pal.
All right, you can follow Mike. I was just call you Kurland. You can follow Mike Kurland on Twitter at Mike_Kurland. I only know that because it is on the screen.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously we're going to talk about spring training lineups.
Shocker. We're
going to just kind of go team by team, and you could tell us if you're seeing anything or if there's not really much there to take note of. Or, I mean, even if I know it's kind of early, so even if there's just something that you might want to keep an eye on for people to kind of look out for and stuff like that. But before we really get into that, I just want to add to the screen for anyone watching. You can see kind of what this spreadsheet looks like. But Mike, you just tell everyone where they could find the spreadsheet and how to get to it.
Yeah, there's multiple ways. It's actually, if you go to my Twitter, Mike_Kurland, like you mentioned, it's pinned to my Twitter for now. It's also on the website. It has its own button on the homepage, so it's there. I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else. I load it into my articles. Actually, Yancey's the man. I love Yancey. He's the best listener / former host of a podcast ever. So there's Yancey. I don't know. I'm just at that point. I have nothing. I'm just off.
Okay, so keep going.
You can't squirrel with me, man. You can't do that to me, man. I'm super squirrely. But yeah, you can just honestly just find it on Twitter. And yeah, I know it's spring training is what I'm known for, but I gotta get past spring training this year. This year, I'm actually gonna also do a daily in-season article writing up some of the bigger noticeable things. If there's injuries affecting it, what's changing with the injuries. So I'm gonna continue into it. I'm not doing the chart in season. This is ridiculous, but I do have a tool for that for in-season tracking as well. Anyway. So that's another thing you can find on the website. So pretty much lineups. That's just what I do. That's my content these days. Lineup trends and monitoring. I do want to discuss though, because the big thing about this, and it bothers me, because I get a lot of crap, and I know I shouldn't let it bother me, but I do. I don't just monitor where someone's hitting in a lineup. That's the main draw. People seem to like on the surface level really follow for it. So yes, obviously the idea here is to monitor and track where someone's hitting in a lineup. That makes sense. You want to know that because the more at bats you can get, the better, blah, 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 deeper leagues, etc. But I also obviously I track platoons and or the players falling into platoons. I track position battles, fringe roster guys that might be able to be like a Rami Gonzalez type. He's not out. I'm off of him now because it was prior to Josh Harrison, but those type of really, really obscure names I look at as well and try to find stuff like Derek. What's his name for the Tigers? I really like. I like him so much I forgot his name. Derek Hill, I think it is. And then of course new positions players are playing. So like if Andrew Vaughn was actually going to play second base, I would be making sure to report on and talk about how much he's playing there. But right now he's been playing exclusively in right field, so we'll talk about that too when we get to the White Sox. But point is it's more than just tracking who's where in the lineup. And I wanted to make sure I express that because people sometimes take my tone like, oh, look, this is what I'm seeing. Like I'm monitoring something, but there's more to it usually than that. I just wanted to make sure I clear that up a little bit.
Lauren, can you tell that Mike is very passionate about this?
I am, and I think that's good.
I got serious for a
It is
second.
I
Is that
think
why?
that it's good, but I do like that you
Let's
pointed
keep
it
going,
out
yeah.
that it's just not just like, okay, well, where is someone hitting? It's all these.
That's what I thought it was.
Well, see, there you go.
See, well, that's the thing. It actually started off as that. That's what it did.
Yeah.
But then I realized, well, that's very topical, and that's the easiest part of monitoring. If you, I don't know how much you've read my notes this year, but I've actually started incorporating more about, hey, this player is supposed to, like, the news says he should be playing here or possibly playing here, but this is where he's been playing. Because especially early on when we're not getting a lot of the lineups where teams are showing their hands. Some teams are, but a lot of teams are not showing their hands yet. So right now it's monitoring, not even monitoring platoons because we're not getting enough information, but I am watching who's playing where, and it matters, especially we'll get to the Yankees. I'll discuss why it matters for the Yankees. And that's the type of stuff that has me early on in camp really catching my attention.
No, I think it's good. And I like the passion here. And I think that means that what you're doing is what you're supposed to be doing. And I think it's an important thing to be doing, you know?
Which I appreciate. See, someone recognizes that I'm good at something, Michael. You need to learn to have some respect, like your better half here, and Lauren. Lauren's just
Lauren's here to give compliments while I just dismiss you.
While you screw everything up on the hosting side.
Yes, I'm a horrendous host. All right, let's start with some teams. So some lineups came out today. Obviously, I saw that you put one for the Miami Marlins.
I'll put one for the other 2018 or 2017.
I know. All right. So what is your take on this? I mean, I know that I see that you noted about Jesus Sanchez and where he's heading in that lineup, and that you don't buy it, but there are a lot of starters in. So what are your thoughts on what you're seeing from the Marlins so far? I'm
not sure I buy that Sanchez is batting third, but I got to pull up the rest of their lineups. He has it too. The rest of it. Well, I don't care if I don't know if you really want to. I mean, it's pretty much there's a lot of pretty much almost all the starters are in the lineup, but he's batting third. Jesus Sanchez is batting third today. He's back, but this is after a lineup where it's pretty much all the same starters. He was batting seventh in, and I find that more realistic. I think he's just getting reps today because they have guys that are proven in the middle of that lineup. They have Avisel Garcia. They have Jesus Aguilar. As boring as he is, the dude's been really solid at the top and / middle of that lineup for the last couple seasons for the Marlins, Garrett Cooper, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't necessarily buy that he's going to be playing there, but I do like that he's playing center field because there was, there's been some rumblings. Jorge Soler, the signing there kind of was like, well, what's going to happen with the outfield? Who's going to play center field? I thought Garcia might, but Sanchez, it looks like Sanchez now has started in center field 2 straight games. So I think they're going to give him run in center field, but regardless, I think what it shows is that they have a belief in Sanchez and that Sanchez is going to play, which not that a lot of people were scared, but I have seen people kind of questioning it, but Sanchez, I would say, is safe. But this lineup as a whole, one big thing from today's lineup, and maybe it doesn't sound like it's crazy or shocking, but it should have been something being paid attention to and still should, because at least against right-handed pitching, I think we have an answer in terms of Jazz Chisholm leading off. And again, people might think, oh, that's not a surprise. I'm not saying it should have been, but if you looked at last year, even it didn't matter who was playing, Miguel Rojas surpassed them in terms of leading off against everybody because Chisholm just wasn't producing. So it's nice to see them give the young kids some belief. And this lineup has those opening day, what I call opening day vibes, because you look at it and you're like, you can see everybody here except for, add Soler, take away Wendell and move Anderson to third base. But this is kind of that opening day lineup. And Chisholm, again, they're just giving him that chance to run with the leadoff spot, which is good. I'm glad. I thought this was going to happen, but it's just kind of like confirmation, like, cool, we're seeing it now. It's happening. And then the big thing about this lineup is Cooper. Like, people are like, well, how's it going to work? Right now, he's just going to meander in that. I think people don't, or maybe people weren't sure. I think Soler plays the field every day, basically. He's not the best defensive player, but he did it in Atlanta. They won a championship. Obviously, he could get by. But it's one of those things that I think Soler's just going to play the outfield a lot, which leaves Cooper, giving him a day off because Cooper could play the corner outfield. Not great, but he could play it. and he can play first base. So you're going to see Cooper bounce around from outfield to first base to DH, and you're going to see Jesus Aguilar between DH and first base, and then Soler between DH and the corner. So it's going to work. Cooper's going to be that guy that moves the most, but I think all of them are safe in terms of playing time.
I'm looking at
Okay.
looking at the most recent Mind in the News, and it says, which is kind of obvious here. Garrett Cooper doesn't plan on playing the outfield, which leaves Soler, Aguilar, and Cooper fighting for 2 spots, first base and DH. No.
I mean, maybe he doesn't play much of the outfield, but he has in the past. So I mean, he hasn't yet this spring, and that's again that goes back to watching and monitoring. I mean, maybe they've said that, but then I've also heard rumblings that was Andrew Vaughn wasn't necessarily going to do a lot of outfield work, and he hasn't been anywhere but the outfield so far in spring. So it's early on reports, but maybe I haven't read that report, and obviously I don't mind the news like Jeff. So Jeff obviously read that somewhere, which is great. So that would change things, but that would just all it's going to do is leave Cooper and Aguilar fighting for first base. And if you look at, I was actually talking to Dr. Dave on Twitter the other day, and he was talking about Cooper and Aguilar and Aguilar being affected. But if you looked at Aguilar's track record, even last year with Cooper, when there wasn't a DH, they this lineup maybe had more opportunity for Cooper, but Cooper only played first base like once a weekish, or maybe about once a week, only when Aguilar was off, basically. So it was Aguilar's spot with Cooper being the one that would spell him, and I think that would still be the case. I think, but because Cooper, I don't know, neither one of them can stay healthy. But if going based off last year, I don't think that Cooper would surpass him in terms of the depth chart. Personally, it's a little early, but that DH spot, I mean, there's 2 of them, DH and first base. I think those are going to be the primary DH and first base. I don't see why Soler would leave the outfield. They don't really have another option to put out there. I mean, De La Cruz, I guess, but he's not. I don't know. I don't see Soler leaving the outfield much. And I think people just view Soler as a DH because he was a DH in Kansas City. But I don't know. I think the playing time is a little more secure than the general public believes it to be. At least that's my view on it. I mean, can you figure out who would DH and get in the way of all that? Because I think Soler is going to be an outfielder. I don't see why he wouldn't be.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not John Birdie. Maybe Wendell pushes, like Wendell's gonna, kind of jump around the whole infield. Brian Anderson can play the outfield. Brian Anderson's in the outfield today with Joey Wendell on the infield, but Soler's out of the lineup. I think Wendell's gonna play about 3 to 4 games a week, but it's gonna be because Brian Anderson gets days off. Aguilar gets like 1 day off a week. Cooper's not gonna play every day. And
is Soler really bad defensively?
Yeah, I mean, last I checked,
right?
Last I checked, I don't know much about his defense, to be honest, but I do know that was a thing of his.
Zimmerman's thinking is that,
or maybe they're like
he has to DH.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe there's a report that I've missed because there's so much. The thing is, I went mining for news today on lineups because a lot of times you'll get some manager talks and team talk about the lineups, and there's so much movement right now between trade talk and all that all the articles. It's hard to find any information because there's so much. You're like sifting through so much info. So maybe Zimmerman found something. I got to obviously have to go read Mining the News. I didn't even realize it dropped. I missed that too.
No, he doesn't really say much.
Oh, it's just more his thinking.
It's more his thinking. Yeah.
Oh, and right as of right now, he wouldn't be wrong if you look strictly at these first few games. Cooper hasn't played the outfield. I'm just going off last year when they put him in right field more. They put him at first base by a large margin last year. So I'm just kind of taking that thinking like Cooper can kind of just jump around everywhere, but so can Brian Anderson. So there's like they have that flexibility, but I think Soler plays the field more than he doesn't because they have, unless they trade somebody, Aguilar and Cooper needs to, their bats are good enough to be in the lineup. That DH is there to keep them healthy. Soler hasn't had those health problems.
All right, now we spent 10 minutes on the Marlins.
Well, it's also my favorite team. I'm wearing Twins hat. I
figured you know a lot.
Well, I definitely
have a little. To the Braves, who just signed Kenley Jansen, Lauren.
I know.
What are your feelings on that?
I feel like that's one of the most surprising offseason moves. I'll take it. I think that it's a good move, but I think it was a little bit out of left field. And it is interesting. I mean, I thought that they had already had a decent bullpen, but they've been trying to bulk it up a little bit more this offseason with signing Colin McHugh and Jansen. And I don't know if did they sign Heath Hembree? No, they signed someone else, Doug Thornburg, I think, or something. But yeah, I'll take it. I think you take Kenley Jansen
I think I was listening to, I think it was the RotoWire podcast, and they said that they felt like the Braves just did it to like take a stab at the Dodgers because they took Freeman.
Maybe. Yeah.
Just to spite them, you know what I mean?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, it was changing one face of the franchise, just kind of swapping them. But I just thought it was surprising. I mean, I didn't really have any shares of Will Smith or anything, but I feel like people who did either of you guys have a lot of Smith shares?
Yeah. I had one.
You had one?
I had one in a DC 50 because he fell to like the 7th round or something like that.
Yeah.
So I just took the value on. I was like, sweet, I'll take him as my first closer that late.
I know.
But don't worry though. I got Will Smith. I paired him with Kimbrel in that league. I'm good.
There you go. You're set, right?
Nice, man.
I do have Matt Barnes.
Oh yeah.
So I got something. Oh god, that league's already under. Anyway.
All right. So Kimbrel, I feel like the Braves lineup is pretty straightforward. I mean, have you seen anything worth noting here? I mean,
one thing that I think just most people overlooked, including myself, is that in a healthy lineup, Swanson's going to probably bat 8th. Just to put that out there.
Yeah. Well, he hit what? Didn't he hit 7th most of the time last year?
I think he hit like 5th or 6th, but there was injuries and other reasons last year before it. So I think we all kind of lost sight of, wow, this lineup healthy. And you have to remember, they just added Rosario. Ozuna wasn't a sure thing to come back. They just added Olsen. They like before Swanson had like a clear path to hitting top 4. And then when you add Olsen, you get Ozuna back, and you add Rosario. Now there's 3 spots he just got shoved behind that weren't there a month ago.
Yeah, last season he hit 5th and 6th the most.
And this year, and now when Acuna, right now he'll either bat leadoff for 2 weeks while Acuna's out, or he'll bat 7th. And I don't think there's any in between. And then when Acuna comes back, Acuna's going to lead off, obviously, or hit top 3. That's just going to push him back down one. That's why. So Swanson is going to bat bottom of the lineup with a healthy lineup most of the year. 7th, 8th will be where he hovers at all year long, as until there's an injury or something like that opens up playing time. But yeah, but that's newer. You have to remember that was newer. People, like including myself, when you're drafting up until all the signings happened, the Braves, you weren't sure which direction. Were they going to go rebuild now that they won a championship? Were they going to go and do what they just did? I mean, I didn't see them signing 3 bats or get Ozuna. I didn't see them going to get Olsen. I shouldn't say I didn't see him. I thought they were going to get Freeman, but I didn't think they were going to get Rosario. I kind of thought they were just going to play with what they had, maybe see what they had in Pache, maybe see what they had in Waters, kind of go that route, let the young guys play. I didn't think that they were going to just kind of completely block Swanson. So it's just a reminder to everybody drafting Swanson. Hey, he's kind of a compiler. You got to pretty much knock him down in 4 out of his 5 categories, because I think he'll still get close to 10 stolen bases. But Swanson can also, but now he's not going to get close. He'll be closer to 20 than 30 home runs like last year, as long as he's hitting towards the bottom. The runs and RBI take a hit. It's a negative across the board, basically. It's just one of those things you got to factor into when you draft it, because he's going at a price where like people aren't like that's not factored in.
Yeah, and those 27 home runs were with a full slate of games, practically 160 games. So I think it's probably going down.
Roster Resource has him hitting 7th right now. All right, let's move on to the Nationals. Looks like Hernandez is going to probably lead off. Then it's pretty straightforward. Soto, Cruz.
And somebody came out and said today that they're pretty much going to, even though Soto's only batted, he has only hit 3rd for whatever reason. I guess they've come out and said that he's going to probably go 2nd, Bell, or whatever. They're going to do pretty much their top guys first, because they were doing this stupid Alcides Escobar thing. I'm like, and then I tweeted, "Is this really happening?" I guess this is kind of a thing. And of course, instantly pushback was like, "Oh no, this is not a thing." And I'm like, "Well, I hope not," but I'm just literally pointing it out because they've done it twice now. 2 lineups where almost not all the starters are in, but almost all of them are in. And then if you look back at Escobar's track record last year, he played 70 something games, and all but one of them he started hit first or second, and that includes games when they had Turner, Soto, and Bell. So it wasn't like it was just a bunch of nobodies all the time. So I was like, are they really doing this? Are they really not going to put Leighton Thomas 2nd at least? Like, it gave me false hope. Like, maybe Thomas could slot into the 2-hole then against lefties, maybe. So it was just one of those things. Like, again, I'm just pointing out observations. I'm not saying it's going to stick. And even if it did stick, is anybody going to draft Alcides Escobar? No. Like, it didn't matter, but it was an observation. So I got a lot of pushback, and that's why it's like I feel the need to defend myself at that time, because I'm like, my job here is just pointing out observations. Like, he still has it looks like he's going to play though, so that's still, maybe people might have forgot about him in a DC, but now you're getting him 40th plus round. You're getting guys who can get you at bats, which is very useful in a 750 player league or in a NL only. Wouldn't you take him, Simeone? And you just had an only. Would you have drafted him at the end if you thought about him just for the at bats for $1?
I did take him.
You didn't? You did or didn't?
I did it for $1.
For $1, see, but that's the type of league you need. A 12-team and only. He has value, and he's a name that no one's going to talk about. I bet you I just talked about him more than any other analyst will talk about the rest of the year, rightfully so, because nobody should be talking about Alcides Escobar ever. But he he's going to play is my point. And now they have Michael Franco who's going to play, which for me to sit here and bring it up and observe it and point it out as like, hey, this could possibly happen. It wasn't unfounded. This team isn't that great outside their top 5, and maybe they want to try to squeeze in a bat who showed some success there last year for them. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. It wasn't like it wasn't here. It wasn't like, oh, go draft this guy. He's not worth anything except for those deep formats. But geez, you can't do anything on Twitter.
Just an observation.
You heard it here first. Kurland is telling you to take Escobar.
Oh
in 10
God,
leagues.
No, shove it.
All right, I think I skipped over Philly by accident.
Yeah.
So let's talk the Phillies. Schwarber, Castellanos, Harper, Realmuto, Hoskins. Ridiculous lineup. I mean, nothing too surprising with what they're doing right now, right?
Nope. And no one should be surprised. I think Schwarber's going to lead off, and I think Castellanos is going to hit second. And you just set it in order. I think that's how it's going to go. To be honest, I think Didi has a secure job. Is one thing I'll say, is because I know Stott's kind of being rumored.
Unfortunately,
but I agree. I think Stott should be given a shot here. Hey. That rhymed. I think D's going to get a good run at it first, because I think they want to go with the vets and the proven guys, and then kind of adapt. But you hit the nail on the head. It is what it is.
I'm kind of bummed that Gene Segura, because I got in a lot of shares with Segura. I thought that he was going to lead off.
Yep.
And so
now,
I'm just like,
he'll be the second leadoff, batting. Probably about like 6. He'll bat 6th or 7th probably.
Yeah,
6th if you're lucky.
I don't like it.
I don't know if he bats over DD, because I think they might want to squeeze that lefty up just ahead of him, because it's going to be 3 straight righties.
Right.
And these days they try, teams try to go lefty righty a lot. So I think instead of getting 3 straight righties, they're going to throw the lefty above him, I think. But again, I'm nitpicking. But yeah, anyway.
All right, Kurland, tell me about my Mets.
You tell me about them. I have no idea. They've shown nothing. The only thing that they've shown that I noticed.
It's pretty straightforward, honestly.
Because
they said McNeil's going to start second, so he's going to be in the lineup. I mean, you have Escobar, Kana. I can't picture them not starting since they signed them. So JD Davis to the bench, obviously, because of the terrible defense. I'm sure he'll pop in at DH, I guess. I mean, Roster Resource has them playing Cano. I feel like right.
I mean, I don't know. I mean. Cano did DH. Like the other day, there was a bunch of starters in on Sunday. There was Nimmo, Lindor, McNeil, Alonso. Cano was in that lineup. So it's one of those things and then Canna, Escobar. So they had almost a full, McCann. That's one of those lineups you look at and think, wow, Cano really did hit DH or play DH, and it was against a righty. So this and Ross Resource does suggest that it's going to be a split. And then today, you look. This is one of those things that the only thing I was going to mention is that today that it was pretty much all backups or bench pieces, and then of course JD Davis and Dominic Smith were in that lineup. Yep. So those two guys, we already kind of assumed it, but the way it's trending kind of drives home the fact that these guys are, in their opinion, bench pieces, I think. But the DH is up for. I don't think the DH can be. Is Cano really gonna be really? Like that, I thought Dom Smith was perfect for you guys as a DH.
I mean, they're gonna find playing time anyway. I mean, Marte's already hurt. Nimmo's basically always hurt. I think it was revealed that Dom Smith played injured the entire year last year.
Yeah,
I saw that.
So hopefully he's better. I mean, McNeil's going to get days off. He always does. I think they're all going to be shifting constantly. So it's going to be really tough. But I mean, I think if you're a Nimmo fan, you got to he's still going to lead off. With Marte behind him, again, if he's healthy. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like they have good depth finally, but I don't know. Lauren, since you're a Braves fan, what team are you most afraid of in the division?
I don't know. They all, I think, made really good moves this offseason. I think that I think Philly, they put a lot of extra kind of thump, with Schwarber and Castellanos. I mean, I think they're going to be a little force to be reckoned with. Although, their defense is so bad. I just think they want to try and overpower with offense. But I don't know. I would actually I would say Philly for me. Who would you say in the division?
Yeah, I agree. I think they're a terrible defense, but I think they're I'd like their rotation. Obviously, their offense is like ridiculous right now, and I think their bullpen's actually interesting too. I think their bullpen's either going to be amazing or absolutely atrocious.
I can see that.
But we'll see which way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kurland, let's move on to the NL Central. There is zero shot we get through every team, but
we can do the NL today and come back for the AL another day.
I was gonna say we might have to do AL another podcast. All right, St. Louis Cardinals. What are you seeing there?
They're one of those teams showing their hands. There's not much to it. I was kind of curious to see if they would lead off Edman, new manager. Edman didn't have the greatest on-base skills last year. Edman does have the hit tool and the contact skill to that. If he goes back to kind of being contact oriented first, I think he got a little pull happy and tried to elevating a little bit last year, which hurt the batting average. But if he can get that batting average back up, that'll get the on-base floor back up, which will keep Edman leading off. That was the only thing I was really looking, because I thought maybe Carlson might have a better chance at being more of an on-base guy for them. And we saw last year Edman drop out of the leadoff spot, but again, new manager, new opportunities. I guess the biggest winner, or there's two, I guess Paul DeJong for the longest time wasn't a projected starter for this team. And he's been starting at shortstop every time the starters have been trotted out there. So I think, well, I don't know how much better Sosa really is. I mean, yeah, I know he had a hot run last year, but I think DeJong's defense wins out, and then they're going to give him a chance to hit again. But Bader has been batting like 6-7, so that gives him a little chance, a little more at bats, more potential for RBI and some production overall. So I think Bader.
That's interesting because roster resources Bader at 9.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could still happen. Just early lineups, they've been trotting them out at like 6.
Yeah,
7.
no, I'm saying
so.
It's interesting. Like if you're catching something there that they're not, and
I mean that's
a little bump.
That's why I need to put. You have to remember, like, okay, let's tangent real quick. When you think of when you think of projections, there's Steamer, there's the Bat, there's ATC, there's. My point is they're not that they're behind, but they go unchallenged. Nobody else is putting out projected lineups. So it's like you take it for what it's worth and you look at it and say that's what's going to happen, or you monitor them on your own and kind of come up with your own conclusions. It's just like when you look at projections, you can take the projection and run with it, or you can be like, you know what, I'm going to skew this to fit what I think that player is going to do, which is kind of what I'm doing with lineups. I'm just taking, and what they do over there is a great job. It's not a bad resource, because heck, when I'm doing mine, I'm looking at theirs because they have all the names in front of me. I'm like, who, in case I miss somebody as I'm looking, like who's out of this lineup today, type of thing. So it's not like I don't use them, but I don't necessarily agree with what they're saying. And on top of that, I'm just following what the teams are doing. Like I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just taking what information's given to me and I'm kind of running with it. And I'm seeing how realistic I think it is for it to stick.
You're just observing, right?
And reporting.
Yes.
And some
Good job for you challenging that man.
Well, someone's got to stick it to the man.
All right, so we just did the Cardinals. Let's move on to the Brewers.
So the
Tell
Brewers.
Us why Keston Hiura will be good again.
Yeah. Should we be interested?
Okay, so Mike, you know this.
He changed his leg kick.
You're giving me a hard time because I was like, how bad was I off of him last year? I was like leading the train of do not draft this guy last year, and now I'm like, hey, this guy is interesting this year. And you know why? There's about 350 picks difference in where he's going between last year and this year, and he's deserved that. But not, you mentioned the change in mechanics for Keston Hiura, and they, there's been 4 games, I believe, and he split them 2-2 so far with Tellez. And with Hiura, I'm just watching, where are they playing him? They mentioned outfield. He's only played first base so far. So until I see Hiura move to a different position in spring, and maybe he's playing within the games at different positions, but he is starting strictly at first base, that tells me A, there's a plan for a platoon, or B, it's Hiura's job to lose, I would think, because I don't think, if Hiura shows a pulse, are they really going to start Tellez over him if Hiura is showing really strong numbers? And with Hiura, I'm not really looking at the production as a whole in spring training. I think he's 2 for 4 with a home run so far. No big deal, because I don't care about that part. What I care about is in 5 plate appearances, he has 1 strikeout. So if he can keep up this, I'm watching the strikeouts, because last spring, he crushed in spring in terms of home runs, decent batting average. What he didn't do was not strike out. The dude had crazy amount of strikeouts last spring, and it kind of carried over into having issues into the regular season. So if we can watch those strikeouts and he lacks them while he continues to make more contact, and if the production's good, that's just a bonus for Hero. But it's really the strikeouts, and so far so good. 1 walk, 1 strikeout in 5 plate appearances, not enough to nearly, not enough of a sample at all. But obviously the changes he's making so far are leading towards those, right? I don't want to sit there and say it's fixed because it's five freaking at bats. In 5 at bats, he can go for over 5 with no strikeouts, or 8 for 5 somehow. I don't know. He'll figure it out. But you get my point. Like 5, it's not a big sample, but it's one of those things I'm just watching very closely.
You're upsetting Tellez lovers.
I was gonna say, do I need to start being concerned about Rowdy Tellez?
I'm concerned about him because why are we all suddenly married to the fact that Tellez, like, we have to remember Tellez was brought there because he was cut. Like, he was let go from his other team, and then he ran hot. And I think we all just loved Tellez, the idea of Tellez, including myself. I've been very pro Tellez, and believe it or not, I still am. It's hard to believe because I'm realizing maybe he is their fallback plan, not their primary plan. And that's what concerns me. Like, why wouldn't they give Hira a former top prospect who's shown success at the big league level? Why would they stunt his growth to let Rowdy Tellez, who should be DHing, but they've signed, who knows, they've signed McCutcheon and other names that why would they stop the growth of one of their young, potentially elite prospects for Rowdy Tellez? That's like part of the reasoning in my head right now. Like, I'm trying to use common sense here. We're all rooting for Tellez, but that's what it is. We're rooting for him because he's fun. Because he go back to Toronto, and Toronto could have used the lefty bat, and they still could, and they were willing to just say no, thanks, good, have fun. So I don't know. I just don't know if maybe it's false confidence in the community as a whole in Rowdy. Because again, I still have this confidence, but I'm like, why? Like, what makes him so special that he would hold back to Hira? And because I can't answer that, it makes me realize, wow, maybe I was too high on him.
Yeah, well, he did make power gains like from the 2020 season, and they stuck through 2021. And so I don't know, maybe that's something that he can build off of. I don't really take one of normally quote what happened in 2020 because it was such a shortened season, but they stuck last season, and
he did really good with them too. I agree. I'm not saying he's useless. I just don't know if they would. I know. because it's Hira. If it wasn't Hira, if it was just a Joe Schmo,
don't back down from him, Lauren.
No, I'm not.
Wrong.
But
Mike, you're wrong. Tellez is great.
Maybe I am. I'm rooting for him. As a fellow fat man who's not athletic. I am rooting for the fellow fat man who is athletic enough to play in the Major League Baseball, play in major leagues. I am rooting for him. I just can see a path to where we're all heartbroken again.
Yeah. No, and I totally get that, and I can see that. And I started getting nervous once they signed McCutcheon, and now that Hira is taking those first those shots at first base in spring training. I know it's just really early in the season, but it's just like little things,
That's where I'm at. I'm like, I'm starting to get like, I had my guard down. I was ready. I was embracing. I had this big old bear hug for Tellez, and now I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take a step back. We're gonna handshake again. We're gonna start shaking hands, and as things happen, I'm gonna start. It's gonna be a passing wave. Yeah, it's gonna be a passing wave, and then before you know, it's
great
analogy. But yeah, that's where I'm at. It's just like I went from a full embrace to like maybe I should stop drafting them. Maybe move on. Maybe let other people take the chance, and I'll look elsewhere. I'll try to address first base. I'm big on Jesus Aguilar, kind of going in the same range, which is another people have questions marks about him, but maybe I'll just address first base earlier so I don't have to deal with this headache.
Right.
Or maybe there's a headache. I'm making it all. Maybe I'm just making it all up. That's always fun too.
I am with you on this though, so I see it.
Real quick, we have a question for someone watching. It said, do we love Mets pitching against the 4 worst teams in the worst division in baseball? Real quick, since we're running, we're with Kurland, so we're not getting through these quickly. What do you guys like Mats this season? I love him. I think it was the perfect landing spot. Really good defense behind him. More of a ground ball pitcher. So in my mind, it's perfect. What do you think, Lauren?
That is exactly what I would say. I like Mats this season, and he's got the number 1 defense behind him.
Writing it down for this draft run together, grab Mats from Simeone. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's no secret. Everyone likes him. A great ballpark, great defense, great context for division. Yeah. I think it's easy to say I'm in on them too.
All right, let's move on to the Pirates, the best offense
next.
in the bigs. Anything interesting here, Kurland, worth noting?
No, it's the Pirates. Brian Reynolds looks like he's batting second instead of third.
Yeah.
That I found that kind of interesting, just because that takes away from his RBI potential. Not that he had a whole bunch of that in the first place, but it was, he did put up 90 last year on this team. Other than that, Susugo seems for sure the cleanup hitter, which we kind of expected top 3-4 anyway. Beyond that, I'm kind of just watching who plays second base. I've seen like 5 different names in 4 days somehow for this team playing second between Rodolfo Castro, Nick Gonzalez played today, which that's not going to stick. Cole Tucker. So yeah, I guess if you're looking at a deeper league, I think Chavis got one of the days too. So you kind of just have to watch that second base split. That's pretty much next.
Yeah, I was hoping Chavis would kind of get that. Do you think I shouldn't even ask this because no one really knows, but I think they noted I think I saw somewhere today that O'Neal Cruz is not going to start with the club to start the year.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I'm enjoying those home runs he's hitting.
All right, let's move on to the Reds.
Okay. Just another team that
they
just hasn't
traded everybody.
They haven't shown their hand at all because they have like 15 platoon players and Votto and that's it. And what's his face at the top of the lineup?
You think Naquin starts
yes.
second?
I think Naquin's gonna hit third, fourth range in that area because they're gonna have people keep forgetting India and Votto are there. So and I think Votto and so far in the lineups
India's going to lead off, no?
Yes, and I think those two hit top 2 because at least in the 2 lineups we've seen, those have been the only 2 players hitting top 2, with Stevenson hitting third and fourth in those 2 lineups. So I think Stevenson, Votto, and India are going to make up the top 4 in some spots. I think Votto could slot to third, that's fine, but I don't see why they don't put Votto second. He's hit second in the past. Maybe they want to put him third, but I don't know who they're going to put ahead of him. Maybe Naquin. I think Naquin's going to be in that 3 spot or 2 spot anyway. So it's really just a matter of it's going to be those 4. I do peg Naquin to be the guy to get the shot hitting at the top of the order over, and then Moose is going to hit the middle order. And then it's just going to be a bunch of platoons. Senzel Aquino has only started against lefties, but they've only played really lefties kind of. So I think you're going to have Moran DHing against lefties. You're going to have Aquino, and it's going to be a mess. They're trying to do what the Rays are doing, but they're doing like the bargain brand version, which is just not going to work out. But yeah, this team's shown absolutely nothing. The only thing to pay attention to is the fact that Moose, late third baseman, boom, he's going to get at bats and play about every day. And Naquin is a guy I just really like.
Yeah,
I love Naquin this year. Yeah.
He just skipped the
someone pops in and says, "Please trade Tyler Mahle." We're all wishing that. Trust us.
And Castillo.
Yeah, I mean they both have another year, I think, right? I don't know. Okay, let's go to the Cubs. Again, kind of a weird lineup here, right?
Another team that hasn't shown anything to us. So I'm just waiting to see. I mean, I know Happ is going to miss a little bit of time.
You think Ortega is good to lead off?
Against righties, at least. He did really well against righties. He didn't do so well against lefties. He did lead off against a lefty the other day. I'm almost positive. I'm looking at it right now. Yes, he did. But I don't know how much to take away from that this early on. One thing I haven't noticed, and I've looked up news and I haven't found anything, is Harold Ramirez still injured? He's still injured, right? He hasn't come back yet or something? Because he hasn't played at all yet.
I think there was some visa issues, I thought, but
is there a visa issue? Is there something? So there's something holding him back.
I think so.
Gotcha. Because I was looking, because I'm trying to see maybe this Clint Frazier, is he able to sneak in as a DH? I know the signing of VR kind of pushes Wisdom possibly to the DH, because I think Wisdom's bat is going to stick, even though I'm not a huge VR guy and I believer in him and his glove in the field, which no one should be. It's really bad.
Morgan is right about Ramirez. He's having travel complications.
Gotcha. I was wondering because I'm like, I haven't seen him, but I'm seeing Clint Frazier. I'm trying to monitor the DH situation a little bit. Frazier has DH'd, and I feel like they went out and got Frazier for a reason, but then they end up signing Suzuki, and basically
I took a lot of Frazier shares in DCs, and I'm like, they got him. There's no way they don't play him, but now it's like, I don't know what they do.
Yeah, and
he doesn't really fit in anymore. But why would they do that?
He was going to be the DH, and now he's. I think they changed their own course.
I don't know if
action.
Wisdom's
he's gonna swing himself onto the bench. I think there's still a path to. I think there's still a path for Clint Frazier to be, relevant. I just don't think it's going to be from day one. I think they're going to see what they have in Wisdom, see if he can fix some of those strikeout issues, because the bat is legit. The power is legit, but not the bat. The bat sucks. But if Ian Happ misses time, if he has, because he just had like a scope of something, I forget what it was, elbow or knee or something. So he's going to miss a little bit of time. So you might get an early run of Clint Frazier because of that. And then maybe he earns himself some DH at bats if he gets off to a hot start and Wisdom struggles. So I wouldn't be out on Frazier yet, but right now it's just ugly. Like this lineup is.
I feel like this lineup looks uglier than the Reds lineup. I mean, they're both like they're both really dicey. Yeah, but I feel like I would take the Reds over the Cubs right now, like their lineup. But there's still it's going to be a headache for fantasy managers.
I'm not opposed to that for sure. I think that Reds might actually have a better lineup. I think what you'll have on this one for fantasy purposes is more consistency. You'll be able to tell who's going to play most days here.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there was some argument, right, about Villar too, right? If he was going to see consistent playing time or not.
I think that was me making that argument because his glove is so bad.
You were against Villar, right?
I know I'm probably wrong. It's just that's a personal thing. I'm not letting it. Obviously, I don't let my personal bias affect the analysis. If I see him starting regularly, I'm going to say, hey, he's the starter regularly. I know Wisdom's bat is bad. But VR I think my big argument was look at him. His defense has been trash. If you look at his WRC plus, which major league teams look at stuff like that. I know it's not a fantasy stat, but major league teams look at that. He's posted a WRC plus of 100 or better twice in the last 5 seasons. And the 2 times he did it was barely over league average, just barely over 100. And then the last 2 years, his efficiency on the base pass has gone down. The sprint speed has aged pretty terribly. His career low was like 2 seasons ago. Last year being one of the lows, I think the second lowest of his career. But that makes sense. As he gets older, he's going to slow down. So if you have a guy with aging speed and inefficiency on the base pass, you have a guy who can't play the field for his life. I mean, I guess he's going to play on this team, but how long can he hold off? Because Wisdom isn't a better bat necessarily because he can't hit the ball, but his defense is actually better. So do they value the defense for guys like Stroman and stuff on the mound with Hendricks and all that? Or are they going to say, you know what, VR is going to get by? And I'm like, I don't know if I trust that. So my argument has been very anti-VR just from an analysis standpoint. But if the playing time is there, he's going to steal. He's going to play probably 4 or 5 games a week, and that might be worth it. I just rather not depend on him for steals because if VR hits towards the bottom of that order, which is also a possibility, he's going to get you steals, but then it's like he could drag you down everywhere else. We all know that. That's also been a thing. So I don't know. I'm just anti-V. I'm trying not to fall back on him for steals if I can avoid it. I understand the appeal though.
All right, let's move on to the NL West. We have the Dodgers. Pretty self-explanatory.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although it was, I guess one thing worth noting was, Muncy played third base today and hit second in the lineup.
Yes.
I don't know how he did. I guess we have to watch his stats, and if we can get some of the
really matters, honestly.
Well, I think I want to see his exit velo. Is his exit velo down? Like, is he hitting less? Like, is the power not coming around because he can't hit the ball well? Stuff like that is what I'm watching with him. Like, is his exit velo down 2 miles per hour? Now you're looking at a guy who's not going to hit as much home runs. You take away the power from him, that hurts his skill set. Things like just little things like that. I would say, Simeon. Nothing crazy.
They didn't have the TrackMan.
I figured.
Or whatever, so you can't
but you see where my head's at, right? Like, it makes sense. Like, if the elbow's affected, like if his swing is affected, you're gonna have less exit velo on the ball, and less exit velo can affect the power production, and that's what you're drafting him for.
I think maybe you could look at that closer to the season. But right now, I just want to see him in the lineup every day.
Well, of course, I'm so naturally,
we'll
but if he's there. But what if you have, like I said, if his exit velo is down 2 miles per hour, what is he, a 25 home run hitter, and his skill set doesn't make him any more appealing? And I'm already kind of out because of the injuries. But anyway,
I'll tell you what though, if he's healthy and hits like he did last year, biggest steal of the draft.
Oh yeah.
And he's still a steal because he's not really this isn't going to drive him up ADP. It's going to up his ADP, but it's not
enough.
Not enough to justify. Like, it's going to be the biggest steal of the draft.
But yeah. I mean, I have no shares. Do you have any shares, Long? No. Yeah, you either, Mike. All right, I think I ranked him 25th in the draft kit, just to give you an idea of how low I was. I was like, he's like, I had him like by Schwindel. Like, well, especially before the deal, we had nothing on him. So,
and even before the deal, there was talks of like, he had like a setback and he wasn't ready, and he doesn't know if he's going to be ready for. Yeah. So
and John Wilder came in here because he was talking about him in the Discord chat today. All right, let's move on to a very fun team to look at for our lineups, and that is the Colorado Rockies.
All right.
Kurland, if you can get this right, then I think everyone should look at you over roster resource, because I don't think anyone's going to guess what their plan is.
Mhm.
The most unpredictable team there is when it comes to lineups.
Yes
What do you
and
think's
no.
happening here?
I think the top 5 are. I think roster resource has the top 5 nailed.
Yeah.
And
But
after that, the thing is, though, is they don't have a true center fielder. Are they going to trust Connor Jones center field? I don't think they've even. I have to actually pull.
There
up
was
their
something
roster.
on Connor Joe.
What about him?
Today on the hold on,
Yeah.
I'm gonna find it.
Because Connor Joe has played 3 games. I don't know if he
So
plays
Connor Joe is not expected to get full time at bats. The trait that earned
Yeah.
Joe's opportunities. Blah blah blah. There are guys that to bring out the best in them need regular bats. There are guys who are vulnerable or valuable to get 500. This quote has nothing to do with.
Yeah, no, it's like when it basically was like
But-
he's gonna get like maybe 300 to 400 at bats.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Yeah,
I already wrote off Garrett Hampson. He's not playing. Jose Iglesias, shortstop. Brendan Rodgers. It's going to take an injury. Rodgers is dealing with that back, so maybe Hampson gets in that way, but it's going to take an injury for Hampson. Connor Joe, unfortunately, I thought there was a chance. I'm like, okay, Crone will need days off.
Yeah.
Connor Joe has already shown he can play first base last year. He's been playing it in spring. Charlie Blackmon is dirt old. He's gonna need DH days. Connor Joe can play the corner outfield.
I think the good thing about Connor Joe is a lot of people loved him, including me. I think everyone here liked him.
I have
As soon as someone gets hurt, I feel like he's obviously the first option in.
But
So,
I'm just curious why they think the way they think about him. It's not like did Tapia does he really deserve that guarantee over him? I guess that's where I was like, I guess Connor. I was guessing Tapia gets the first crack at it, but I don't think. I mean, I guess Tapia could bounce back and be okay. I don't know. I think Connor Joe.
on base,
yeah.
I'm just not excited about it.
I mean, I'm not excited now
no one
that
is.
I'm not
I do
excited that Tapia is now at the bottom of the lineup, because I also had a bunch of Tapia shares. Like I was like, this is kind of like, a later round steal guy. His batting average isn't going to kill you, and a sneaky, plus run guy.
Plate appearances.
Yeah. But I also knew that it was also the Rockies, and that could change, and it looks like it has. But who knows? At some point, or maybe multiple points throughout the season, maybe he can get back up there. I have no idea. I mean, this really is a nightmare lineup.
This lineup. There's a reason why I tag Eric Cross and I say Rocky's gonna Rocky, because although they didn't Rocky as hard as I thought they were gonna Rocky, Jose Iglesias felt like a really Rockies move. But then when you look, Garrett Hampson wasn't exactly worth not replacing. So I think this might be the most steady of a Rockies lineup we've had in a few years, especially if they're already giving us answers about Connor Joe versus Tapia. Like, instead of letting us speculate wildly, they're saying, no, Connor Joe's not the guy, which instead of holding on to that false hope, we can kind of move on, kind of take your lumps. If you don't buy in, you think it's coach speak, now's the time, because Connor Joe's going to be pretty much free in drafts. He's going to drop. So, I do think, for once, I could look at roster resource and be like, for once, when it comes to the Rockies, I should say, I can look at roster resource and be like, yeah, this kind of makes sense. And honestly, Iglesias did bat second with Rodgers out, so maybe Rodgers opens up a spot for Iglesias towards the top of the lineup. So maybe watch that. But that was without Chris Bryant in the lineup, so I don't know.
And I think I would rather see Connor Joe than Tapia out there, and it makes sense then that the Rockies are like, no.
Exactly.
It's going to be Tapia over
I'm guessing. I think Tapia has good defense too. I believe, which is
he might be.
Yeah, and it's always hard for us to think about. Well, this is real life.
And Hilliard. I think Hilliard. If it wasn't for Hilliard's defense, he wouldn't be starting. But I guess Hilliard might not be the best center fielder. So you have Hilliard in center field. If you have 2 good corner outfielders between Bryant and Tapia, that can help. And you know how big and cavernous Coors is, so that right there is going to help. Those 2 corners are going to help bridge the gap and some of that lack of defense from center. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into Hilliard's center field defense, but I'm just thinking that out loud as well, that maybe that's part of what's playing into it.
All right, let's move on to the Diamondbacks.
Nothing. Literally, we can skip them. They've shown nothing. Ketel Marte hasn't even played a game. They've showed me nothing. I have. Seth Beard played, so he might be healthy. That's kind of worth noting. Seth Beard started the other day at DH. and he can take that DH spot and run with it, that is worth noting because we weren't sure if he was going to be healthy for the season, to start the season. So
all
that's
right,
about all I've noticed. We can skip them. We're running low on time.
Yeah.
I saw. That's why I'm like, we can just skip them.
No,
They've shown me. I feel bad, but they've shown me nothing.
Yeah, I mean, we got 2 teams left, I think. All right, let's move on to the Padres. Question: is Grisham gonna move down to the lineup again? No, okay. So you think he stays up top now?
Who do they have to put there?
Yeah, seriously, that's a good point. I was just thinking that too.
That is literally the reason. Not because
he's no depth to this team.
Well, yeah, they have no. Well, they've missed out on every signing. They've missed literally name a guy that they've been in on. They haven't gotten him, and like the fact that you traded for Voit and you still have room for Hosmer tells you all you need to know about this team's depth. Like,
it worked out well for me because I actually have a good amount of Profar because I had a feeling
I have a couple.
He'll start unless they sign, but they never signed anyone. So it worked out.
Him and Kim, both are late speed guys. Kim with the multi-positional eligibility, he's going to play every day. I think he's going to stick towards the bottom of the lineup more. Profar has been hitting second, but that's without a couple guys in there right now. But I think obviously, I think that all that does is show us that Profar is more likely to move up over Kim at the time being. But both of them are kind of guaranteed playing time. So there's your 2 late target guys. Like Profar is going to play often. It seems like, especially over Mazzara. I don't think unless Mazzara shows something. The fact that we have to talk about Nomar Mazzara, I mean, that tells you enough about that tells you all you need to know about this team. But I mean, what
a mess. This team it's honestly a shame because they have a very good rotation, and it's just I don't even know. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. And Cronenworth is dealing with an injury. I found that out today. I forgot about Cronenworth. He's not healthy, so that's part of. No, yeah, I didn't know that either. So he's not. He hasn't. I think it's a groin issue, and he's not. He hasn't come back yet, so he hasn't started playing, which is why you're seeing Profar up in the lineup. So we have to monitor Cronenworth's health because without Cronenworth, not only does that open up more playing time guaranteed for Kim that already has guaranteed playing time, but maybe you can see Profar come to the infield because they have, maybe they'll sign Pham or something back to the team, and it might give Profar more eligibility. It might let Profar hit higher in the lineup unless they sign somebody. Just little things like that. But right now, Austin Nola is worth noting. He seems to be the starting catcher. Anytime there's a lineup with most of the starters in, it's Nola at catcher, not the other 2 guys. So if you're
we always figured that as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, I know we figured it, but it's one of those things that they had 3 catchers, and I was like, which one's going to actually start? So yeah, there's that.
All right, let's move on to the last team, Platoon City here. It's the Giants. We obviously know they love to platoon a lot with Ruff, Flores, Slater, Wade Jr., all that fun stuff. So, I mean, have you noticed anything interesting here, Mike, or is it kind of the same thing as last year where they're going to platoon the crap out of everything and, including during games and,
Yeah, I think that's just expect more of the same. The only thing I'm watching because I'm interested, is Yastrzemski. They did this in spring last year, and it carried over. They let him lead off a lot, and they're probably just letting him get reps in to kind of see if he can rebound from last year. But Yastrzemski,
which I think he can.
He's led off before. He could lead off against righties, and he's leading off in spring. But the problem is we haven't seen La Stella, or maybe we have once. I have to go look.
I think he's hurt.
Is he's still hurt, right? I wasn't sure. I thought so. So we haven't, I don't think we've seen Brandon Belt yet. Like we haven't seen any. Crawford hasn't played yet. We've seen a lot of Flores actually, but then you've seen Slater leading off against righties, which makes sense. So it's gonna be more of the same, just headache. I don't really this team. And in spring last year, they showed their hand once or twice in all 4 weeks. They had a full spring training. I saw a full lineup maybe twice. So this is a team that I watch and I feel like, okay, open it, okay, close. Like I barely put notes down for them ever. But yeah, I am just watching Yaz to see maybe when we get like a semi-full lineup, is he still leading off type of thing towards the end of spring. He's the only one that, because I feel like Yaz can still be good. I feel like he got a little unlucky with Babbitt last year and stuff. So he's the one I'm most intrigued in terms of what's going on. And Jock, but Jock's going to probably, I think you'll see Jock go up and down the lineup depending on how he performs, but he's going to be a platoon guy too.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting if Yaz does lead off, especially because it's not like Listella is he can never stay healthy. So
I was a huge Listella guy.
Listella is leading off then. Yeah. So real quick, we got a question here. What are you guys' thoughts on Dan Shirley?
I'm rooting for him. I am. He got absolutely didn't.
And he shares.
Didn't he just get lit up like for like 5 runs the other day in spring training? I know that means
I
nothing,
didn't see it.
but I think
Yeah,
he
it
got
doesn't
lit
mean
up for like 5 runs in spring training. I'm like, that doesn't give me any promise. But you know, you have Mikolas and all them, you know, like they came over, they did well. We saw Australia really succeed over there. So I'm mildly hopeful. I don't have any shares, but it's mostly because I forget about them or I'm too busy getting Matt Manning, you know, in that area. So
I like that you forced that opening there.
Of course he does. Lauren, do you have any Straley shares?
I don't, but I am curious, and I know that you're kind of intrigued with the whole Brent Strom effect, right? On kind of the Arizona pitchers, and maybe he can work some magic with them. Do you think that he can do the same with Straley? I don't have any shares of Straley.
Yeah, I mean, he's most likely going to be in the rotation, right? I don't know who would start over him, especially since they went to get him. But yeah, it's so hard with these guys going overseas and coming back. I mean, we've seen guys be successful with it, doing it, like Mikolas for when he's been healthy. But yeah, I mean, they all kind of intrigue me because one, they're going to get innings. Two, like you said, you know, the hitting coach came over from the Astros. I mean, the pitching coach, and he really worked wonders there. So who knows who he could affect in this rotation? I feel like someone's going to really come out of here. It's just a matter of who.
Yeah.
If you draft them all, you'll have the right answer.
I have a lot of. I actually have a good amount of shares of Bumgarner and Weaver.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of Weaver. Just hoping, but we'll
a
see what
couple
happens
Weaver.
there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Straley's interesting. Obviously, he was really good overseas, so maybe he figured something out and can carry it over. But it's so hard to tell. We never really know.
Yeah.
He's a real shot in the dark, like just deep leagues. You know, that's the only reason why. All right, so we finished the NL. We'll have to hopefully get Kurland on before the season starts into the AL.
And don't worry though. Maybe you know what? Maybe I'll take notes and I'll have like a tidbit about everything because by then it won't be so much we're guessing of what's happening. I feel bad. Like I feel like right now all this was like, hey, by the way, I see kind of this, and I'm looking for this.
It lets people know what they got to look out for the rest of
and you know what?
Spring training.
If you want the AL information, just come to me on Twitter.
Yeah.
Boom. Shameless plug. Let's go.
All right, Mike, you want to let everyone know if you got anything coming up, coming out? What are you doing these days?
Everything.
I hope everyone listening just blocks you, but
you can block me at SP Streamer. But you can follow me at Mike_Kurland. You can check me out on Twitter. I put everything on there, including bothering Mike saying, hey, don't forget to retweet this for me. And then I'm like, but I have kind of like a top 10 things of what caught my attention in the first 4 or 5 days of spring training coming out on The Athletic, I think tonight or tomorrow. So that should be out soon. I'll be doing 3 or 4 more spring training type articles, but I'm gonna do more in depth. It's gonna be team by team and give notes, kind of like this podcast, but team by team. So it's gonna be like 4,000 words. Have fun with that on The Athletic. I have the obviously SK Playbook. Me and George we moved over to Patreon, which I'm posting my notes there daily to help because on this chart it could be a little tedious to kind of go team by team. So I put them in an easier to read version on the Patreon as well as extra. I've been trying to do extra player write-ups and stuff like that. So we have that going on, which is also on the website, skplaybook.com. Host of the Bases Loaded podcast. We're gonna start getting that going again. We took a week off. I think that's everything, man. I don't know. I got the spring training chart, obviously, which takes up a couple hours a day anyway. So
you're the opposite of me. I'm terrible at self-promotion, and you are like.
Well, I have practice because I've been on 3 podcasts talking about all these transactions lately. So it's like I've gotten practice promoting myself again because I used to be really bad at it.
I told Lauren I'm like the worst because we changed our podcast format kind of, which I'll discuss in a second. And like the last podcast, I didn't mention it at all. And I messaged Lauren after. I was like, you need to be the self-promoter because I am horrendous at it.
She is your better half, so
it just takes practice. I mean, I dropped the ball on that as well with the show from last week as well.
Don't stop it, Lauren. Yeah. You don't speak ill of yourself. We only speak ill of Simeone on this podcast.
Okay, all right, that's the rule. All right,
I'm good with being the punching bag. Yeah. So as I just briefly mentioned, you will notice if you follow SP Streamer Podcast that we will have 3 different types of podcasts happening. Full Count, which is what you're listening to. I probably should mention that in the intro, but again, I'm a terrible host. Lauren, you got to help me out here. So Full Count, which we listen to, me and Lauren, our weekly podcast, just about all topics. Then in season, we're going to have something called On the Bump, which will be Sundays. It'll be Doug. I will be on majority of them. I'm sure there will be some where I can't be on, but that's going to be Sundays during the season. It's going to basically be about Fab and who you could add for the upcoming week. And then we have our newest podcast, which is called The Next Pick, and that is with Drew and Peyton. And that's going to be our prospect podcast.
You forgot one. You forgot the crossover pod we're going to start working
on.
Well,
we haven't even. We're not announcing that yet.
I just did.
So,
suck it, Simeon.
So that's in the works. Anyone listening, don't listen to him. So we're going to have those 3 different types. We're adding a prospects one because we think prospects is a big, has a huge fan base, basically, dynasty leagues. Drew and Payne are really, really good at what they do. And I think it's going to be a really good podcast moving forward. They just had their first episode last week, so go back and check it out if you didn't get to. We have a nice.
Are they going once a week?
So they're gonna, I think they're gonna try once a week. I think, which is why me and Lauren are gonna be moving away from Wednesdays. They can only really do Wednesdays, so they're gonna be recording Wednesdays moving forward, and they will be live as well. I'm sure they'll have guests on and stuff like that too, which will be pretty cool. If you haven't already checked our website, spstreamer.com, check out our membership. You could see it on the website. You could join our Discord chat, get all that fun stuff. Our draft kit is also out, which you could buy in our store, while Kurland's kissing his mic for some reason. And that'll do it. You can follow me on Twitter at SPStreamer. You can follow Lauren on Twitter at LK Auerbach. Again, if you enjoy our show, please rate and review it, and we will see you all next week.